Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello, and welcome to the program. It'd be a Tuesday, April 24th. And it being a Tuesday, that means my kid sister Susan is joining us from Chicago. Hi, Suze.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm okay.
Good.
You? It's finally vaguely spring-like around here.
Vaguely. It was beautiful.
Vaguely. I mean, very vaguely. Like the very earliest of the flowers just sort of said, God damn it, I'm getting up.
Yeah, I understand. Here as well. A lot of stuff to talk about. I'm not sure even where to start, but let's start easy with Kate Middleton, with the Duchess of Cambridge. Okay?
Okay.
She had a baby yesterday morning, and she left the hospital holding the baby about 7 hours later, looking ravishing. Let's just put it that way. Made up, her hair done, looking absolutely gorgeous. And a lot of people have said that, oh my God, she just made it really hard for a lot of other women. And I know that some women can have a baby and look gorgeous and leave. But I saw somebody on Twitter have the picture of her looking so ravishing, and then said, just to keep it real, I want everyone to know she's wearing a diaper.
Of course.
Yeah, well.
And she had a team of people to make her there and make her look like that. And she was wheeled in a wheelchair to the door. She stood up, beamed, walked to the car, went home, and went to bed.
No doubt.
And by the way, they made it clear that the reason that she did that is not because she's Superwoman, but because their being in that maternity hospital at that time distorts everybody else's experience.
Yeah.
And they wanted out of there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let the media, not to sound like our beloved president, do what they want with showing these pictures of her. She didn't want to walk outside looking haggard because of what they would do to her if she did. So she's got a team. She's got the money. She looks great. She can put on a show for 15 minutes. You know what? With the same help, we all could.
Well, here's somebody in the Washington Post saying, for many, her smiling appearance outside St. Mary's Hospital is just one example of how our culture idealizes childbirth. We don't talk about postpartum or how much healing has to occur. And this perpetuates a feeling of failure in some women, and makes people not acknowledge how much childbirth changes a woman's body, how taxing it is. Birth can be incredibly difficult, and it's not a perfect fairy tale, no matter how they made it look.
Never is, and everybody reacts differently. And I think we've talked about this before, but if we want to look at how, the most primitive of cultures treat childbirth, primitive is in quotes, frequently the woman that has given birth is pampered for a month, and the community comes together and takes care of the baby, and all she has to do is lie there and nurse and heal, and there's plenty of time for her to mother. And we in our society so isolate people that if even our mothers frequently had nurses that came home with them. in today's culture, that's just a joke. How do you do that? Yeah, unless you're a Kardashian, you don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have not only made it harder on, we have taken away the traditional, culturally approved help for new mothers and said, go on, honey.
Out.
You wanted to have it all. It's yours.
Right. Go home and make dinner.
Right.
No.
By the way, clean the house.
Yeah. A new mother.
And we need your salary.
I mean, it's not.
And that's salary.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just want to say that I understand all that, but I just really think it, again, it'll make things more difficult. The perception of childbirth in, I suppose, men's eyes will, then, people will wonder, well, what's wrong with her? She stayed in the hospital for 2 days. Yeah, and then came home and went to bed. Oh, God. Okay, so there's that.
Well, I mean, I really do ask you in all seriousness, what would you have had her do?
No, I'm not saying that. I understand. I think it's very nice of them to get out. To get out.
Yeah, and if she's going to get out, she's not going to wander out, in a hospital gown, with mascara dripping down her cheek.
No. How hard it is to be her. I mean, how
terribly difficult.
How good
and
she
it
is at it.
also might very well be that she, who very clearly has the very talked about difficult pregnancies where we don't see her because she's got her head in a toilet for 3 or 4 months. This might be the easy part for her. You never know.
That's true. Might be. My God. Oh. Okay. I want to go then to news that was breaking again late last night about the fact that the latest nominee from our wonderful president that clearly was not vetted at all, which was obvious when he announced the nominee, and now the nomination is stalled and in difficulty. And I'm not talking about Pompeo. I'm talking about the White House personal doctor who
what is he, Ronnie Jackson? I don't trust any...
Ronnie?
I don't trust grown men that have an IE at the end of it.
I don't think is it IE? Isn't it a Y? It's a Y. No?
Is it a Y?
I don't know. But, yeah, Ronnie Jackson. Well, he can't help it. Maybe, sometimes you try to make that...
I shouldn't say that. My own son has an IE.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And also, I'm thinking of some young men I've seen, from grow up. One in particular who I always called Jordy. And then all of a sudden, I was told in no uncertain terms that his name was Jordan. Yeah, because at some point, some guys just don't want that. Right.
No.
So, I have it spelled here with a Y. I think it's a Y. It doesn't matter. Ronnie Jackson, it doesn't have any gravitas to it. So, Dr. Jackson...
well, mostly he doesn't because of, his in-depth report on the president's health.
Well, that's true. That's what I want to say. The first time any of us really laid eyes on him was when he extolled Donald Trump's health. And I mean, any of us looking at him can tell he's hardly healthy. I mean, he might have genetically, he talked about must have really strong genes. And, he could live to be 200, I think he said. And he sounded like Trump, with all these superlatives, never saw anything like it, blah, 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 nothing wrong with him. He's this, that, and the other thing. And it seemed really bizarre. Well, guess what? Now there are whispers, even more than whispers, because some news operations are reporting it, that the Senate committee that was supposed to begin his nomination hearing today has put it on hold And I don't know that it'll ever start up again because they are investigating reports of his drinking on the job. And that might explain the press conference he gave about Trump. He might have been drunk.
Right.
Seriously, he might have been drunk. And so they're saying he is under investigation for drinking on the job and for doling out medications improperly. Oh, sure, have one of these. So he's a drug pusher and a drunk.
And he was certainly, therefore, seeing that if you ask him for something, you get it. If, he probably let our beloved president dictate his own
I think so,
medical
too.
report.
That's my guess. And remember when Trump was seen slurring his words? Jackson also came out and said something about, well, he was given a this or that or blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I got a feeling that Jackson, who a lot of even Republicans were really freaking out about the fact that this guy with absolutely no credentials whatsoever was being put in charge of, I believe, the largest bureaucracy, or one of them in the country.
One that is in trouble, that really needs some serious professional guidance at the top. And these are our veterans, folks.
Oh, yeah, we talk a lot about our veterans. Thank you for your service. Right. Now go get homeless. Thank you for your service. Now wait 5 months to get in to see a doctor at the VA.
Or die trying.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't believe it. So you know what else I thought, and it's sort of sad? Everybody who comes into Trump's orbit ends up being destroyed. They go down. And here was a guy who, by all indications, was always well-liked. Obama had him as his White House doctor. Everybody thought, I guess he was hail fellow, well met. Who knows? Everybody liked him. Good-looking guy, charming. And maybe now these certain aspects of his his behavior are coming.
Yeah, everybody gets outed and ruined, and they were leading perfectly nice lives, including the whole Trump family.
Yeah. Well, pretty much. I mean, just look. I mean, everyone is destroyed.
No, he's running them, every single last one of them, under the bus.
Yeah. So I was on the way to work. I was listening to the greeting ceremony for French President Macron.
Yeah, me too. And I was asking myself, why are you listening to this?
I don't know, because it was all that was on, I guess. I'm struck again by how much French and English are alike, and that, half of the French words sound exactly like the English word.
Right.
Science was science. I mean, it really... And then at the end, Macron said something about our destiny or something, our nation's destiny. And then it was translated as history. And I thought, really? Wasn't it destiny? Shouldn't destiny be destiny? Is it really history? I don't know. I thought that was a little odd.
Well, history is histoire.
Yeah. So that's right. It is l'histoire. So the translator got it wrong. He did not say a date with destiny.
Well, no, I'll tell you what the translator got. The translator isn't listening and translating. He's got a script, and he's reading it, and what Macron did is change the word.
Well, maybe. She, by the way. That what I was hearing was a she.
Okay.
Okay.
When I was listening, I was hearing a man.
Uh-huh. So, when they're reviewing the troops, that thing they do.
Yeah, did you see the look on Trump's face?
Yeah. And it wasn't just his look.
He looked like he had indigestion.
I know.
He looked like a 5-year-old playing general.
Well, he didn't even, I thought it was even the way he was walking. It was just this lumbering, geez, I'm bored. I can't believe this. And he wasn't looking. He was just sort of staring straight ahead. He was not looking at, you're supposed to be reviewing the troops. That means you look at them when you're walking by. Macron, on the other hand, was looking.
No one's smiling and moving his head, right.
Yeah, and our doofus of a president. Oh, Jesus, God. And I just want to acknowledge as well that in the usually absolutely classless manner of this administration, this is the first time anyone can remember that a state dinner has been held. It will be held tonight. State dinner has been held in which the party that is out of power, not the president's party, that no one has been invited from the Democratic leadership, congressional leadership, to the state dinner, which is supposed to rise above. It's supposed to be country, not parties. It's supposed to rise.
He's not the king.
Yes, exactly right. And
this isn't his court.
That is, I mean, it's things like that that are just so embarrassing. I just can't even bear it. Anyway, what'd you think of Melania's hat?
I didn't mind her hat. I was more fascinated by her tight pencil skirt.
Yeah,
because they took a long, lingering shot of her from behind, and let's just say it was nicely tailored.
Yeah, and she's got like this really tiny waist too. I mean, I thought she
really tiny waist and these and Kardashian proportions from behind.
Yeah, well, she looks. I thought she looked good, but I mean, people were talking.
I thought she looked absolutely exquisite, but it was. I'm just going to say it was extreme tailoring for a first lady.
Okay. Yeah, but a first lady who was a model, who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know.
She's a big girl.
A big girl?
Yeah, she's big. I mean, she's not a tiny woman.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway.
So yeah, I saw the hat, noted. And wondered sort of why. I mean, you know, she was wearing a hat, but I didn't see any problem with it. But then, as I said, I went directly to the cut of the suit. But I thought she looked beautiful.
Yeah, as opposed to the dumpy jerk next to her. Anyway, oh God. So, I'm sorry, it just depresses me. It does. I just depressed.
Trying to think of something cheerful to talk about.
There isn't anything. There is nothing. Okay, I want to, can I talk about just a few little things I thought about the news yesterday? First of all, the horrific, the van plowing into pedestrians in Toronto. I want to change the definition of terrorism. Can we do that? Because I understand that a terrorist would have to have some kind of an agenda for their actions, and apparently this guy didn't, as far as we know yet. But it just seems increasingly like it's only terrorism if a brown skin or a Muslim does it.
Right. Absolutely. Otherwise, it's something else.
Yeah, it's mental illness.
Otherwise, it's a tragedy.
Yeah, it's mental illness, it's this, it's that, it's... but I'm sorry, if people are going to be concerned about walking down a street, that bespeaks a certain level of being terrified, of being afraid. And actions that create terror would be, I think by definition, terrorism. I think in our...
Yeah, and it's, you know, and it's insidious because a lot of this, precisely because, you know, it doesn't fit the exact definition of terrorism, and we're looking for causation, we have to admit that these people are getting the idea from, the media and the coverage of other like incidents.
Right.
And so what's that solution? That you just put a ban on, keep us all ignorant, put a ban on these kind of incidents until people forget that they happen and they stop happening?
Well, obviously that can't happen. But
I mean, that's, what does one do?
Well, anybody now knows, we are all know that if you want to kill a whole bunch of people, just take your car and mow them down on the sidewalk.
Right.
Yeah, so yes, someone who just wants to kill a bunch of people can do that. I just think
that's why your neighbor wants to own assault rifles, because he could kill as many people with his van.
Oh God! So the but when the killers are from the right or the neo-Nazi types, those are never called terrorism. When in fact those have
no, they just identify them as who they are. They use one of those identifiers.
But they
neo-Nazi.
have an agenda. But they had an agenda for doing it. So
absolutely, and when those white guys would mow down people at Jewish community centers,
that's a terrorist attack.
No, they didn't call them terrorists.
Right, but it is. It's a terrorist attack. And people who've shot up abortion clinics or killed doctors who perform abortions, those are terrorists. Just saying. The other thing that I want to note is, I don't know if you saw the video of the Toronto cop who took this killer into custody, because the guy, if this were happening in the United States of America, would not be alive today.
No.
The Toronto cop, it looked like the guy was pointing a gun at him. And that cop didn't shoot him. Didn't shoot. And in America, as any black person will tell you, all you have to do is, be carrying your phone or holding anything. Or move. Or, yes, start running away. And
even if it's to walk away.
Right. And you're dead. You're dead. So I just want to point out that Toronto cop schooled a lot of police in this country about what a real heroic cop looks like. It's not somebody who starts shooting and asks questions
that guy down
like,
and cuffed without a shot being fired by anyone.
And speaking of cops, did you see the video of the incident on the American Airlines plane? It was a flight from, I think, Miami to Chicago.
Where they tased the guy?
They tased the guy. There were 3 cops. It's just fascinating. 3 big, burly cops on one slightly built, 5'7" guy. And they could not. This was fascinating to watch. They were tasing him, and he just kept talking. He kept. It had no effect at all. And I watched the video, and one of the cops said to the other cop, while they're struggling with him, saying, "Man, he must be on something really, that he." They say that sometimes
He's
if you're
impervious.
on a drug or something, that you're high as a kite, you're just impervious. He did not look like it had any effect on him at all. That was astonishing. 3 cops outweighing him by God knows how, and they couldn't get this guy. It's just amazing. Even when he was handcuffed, he was giving them incredible trouble. So, yeah, I'd like to know what that guy was on. He had to have been on something.
Yeah.
Chris wants to know, did you notice that when the wife of the French president was greeting Trump, when he did the kiss on each cheek, Trump kissed her right cheek, then instead of kissing her left cheek, he kissed her on the lips? Did he?
I didn't see that.
The president?
I didn't see that part, so...
I didn't see it either.
I hope not. Oh, please, God, I hope not.
Oh, Lord.
Did she wipe her?
He kissed her on the lips? Are you sure?
Oh, God.
Well, I don't... No, I didn't see it because I wasn't watching. I was driving in my car. Okay, what else we got? Oh, this Waffle House slaying suspect.
Yeah.
Are you aware? By the way, okay, here's another thing having to do with American policing. How come all these white killers get taken alive? Do you think if a black guy had walked into a place, and a naked black guy, and shot up and killed a bunch of people, and then was on the lam, when they finally found him, do you think he'd be alive? I'm just asking. Dylan Roof was taken alive. It seems like white guys that kill black people get taken alive. That's all I'm saying. I'm thinking of some others, too. What is with that? And black guys who haven't killed anybody, they get killed by cops. It's the truth. And also, let me point out that this SOB is obviously insane. He, and a racist, I would imagine, he also has, the court posted it's a $2 million
Well, they gave the guns back to the dad, and the dad gave them back to the kid.
Well, okay, but there's no way that the father who gave the guns back to the kid should not also be charged with murder.
Oh, he should. I mean, if there's such a thing as a felon, if felony murder has any meaning,
yeah, this is it for the father.
And felony murder is a legal construct by which anybody who is involved in the commission of a crime that results in the death of a party,
exactly,
and it could be one of your accomplices,
exactly,
is guilty of murder just as much as if they had pulled the trigger themselves.
That's why people that's why people are serving life sentences for
sitting in the car.
For sitting in the car, in the getaway car. Right.
Mm-hmm.
This father should go to jail for the rest of his life. He can share a cell with his son. Oh,
who should be given? Who's who sounds like he would be sort of clearly diagnosable and should be in a facility someplace.
Right. He's
so
clearly
and by the way, Nashville is in Tennessee, and Tennessee is what is called a source state because they have basically no gun control whatsoever. So they literally ship guns to convicted felons in L.A., and there's nothing wrong with it.
So there was no law. The law the father broke is an Illinois law, right? The father's in Illinois. Yeah. Right.
And the kid was red flagged, and the police appropriately took their guns. But apparently in Illinois, you're allowed to give the guns back to a relative. And then the idiot relative just turns right around and gives the guns to the kid.
Oh, I love this. We've heard from Ray. Ray, I love you. But Ray is a good Catholic and a good Irishman. And he so despises the English that, okay, so here's from Ray, okay? Ladies, it continues to both confound and enrage me that first you show any interest in, and worse, offer sympathy toward the English royal family. I know you have cavalierly dismissed my contempt for that most contemptible collection of villains. But at the same time, you also demonstrate an admirable support for historic justice and truth. That family is a walking, talking Confederate statue museum. To the Irish, it is. They represent the worst atrocities in history. If the Irish should put behind them the planned, approved, engineered, and enacted starvation and murder of millions over 700 years, maybe black Americans should do the same with slavery, which of course they shouldn't. As far as I'm concerned, the new birth seemed so harmless to the mother because the child was pulled from a brimstone cauldron. Love always, Ray. I love it, Ray.
Nicely done, Ray. But
Beautifully done.
You know.
Beautifully done. Well, look.
Yeah.
You know who probably shares that feeling? My ex-husband. Cullen had the same animus for the Brits. Truly did. Wasn't forgiving. Saw no ability to forgive. And I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, how do you feel about, Nazi Germany?
Well, duh. How do I feel about all kinds of things? The Crusades. How do I feel,
right.
Actually? I mean, but let me tell you this. If Jews were to
be the vengeful sorts?
We would hate absolutely. There's not a country,
everybody
on earth, or a religion on earth that we wouldn't have this. Pretty much,
right? Who have gotten in line to try and wipe us out,
right? I think so.
And who continue to do it to this day.
Yeah. So I get it.
But we're wily little cockroaches.
Never mind.
Yeah.
We'll get you in the end anyway. Yeah. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk. Susan, I brought this up yesterday toward the end of the show, and I felt like we could have done more conversation about it. It's because it's a result of a piece written by a local columnist, Ruth Ann Daly, who's a conservative. Very religious, very conservative. But she's talking about words and derivation of words and people who take offense and where is the line drawn. And I find this fascinating. For one thing, she cited something I did not know, which was that last week, in an NBA playoff game with the Oklahoma Thunder, the play-by-play announcer at one point said of Russell Westbrook, who's one of their great players, when he did something, I guess, just unbelievably outrageous, a risky move, that I think maybe he actually said, he said about Westbrook during the play-by-play, wow, Westbrook must be out of his cotton-picking mind.
Oh, dear.
Well, see, I'd never thought of that as a racial.
Well, I know, but I mean, the second you said it, I went, "Oh my God!"
Well, so okay,
derivation of these.
Right. So, and of course, Westbrook is black, and the announcer's white, and all hell broke loose. And he was he offered the abject apology that we.
Yeah, he was guilty of total thoughtlessness.
Do you think?
Do I think it was deliberately racist? No, because he, like us, never thought of the derivation.
Yeah, so was that total thoughtlessness?
Well, the second we thought about it, we
Yeah,
got
but
it. So that's the definition of thoughtless. Do I think he should be? Do I think he should be?
He was suspended for a game.
Accused of anything more than never having put that together? No.
But okay, so here's the question then. So cotton picking, I don't know. It's not a phrase I use, although I think I have maybe at some point. Cotton picking. It's just not one that's in my lexicon that I throw out. But I've heard it. It's never occurred to me. Does that mean, so a good person, you would never use that when you're talking about
now
a black
that it's been pointed out to you, you won't.
Okay. All right. That's okay. So
there has to be an opportunity for mistakes and growth in any place that is undergoing change. And if there's anything that we want to encourage, it's change. So you're not allowed to be killed when when tapping you on the shoulder and pointing it out would do.
Okay, but Susan, I'm still. Here's the thing. I told the story about how shortly after I came to Pittsburgh, a woman in the newsroom said something in just conversation. So I Jewed him down or something like that. And my mouth fell open. I don't think I'd never heard anybody say that in my presence, and I
have. So what did you do?
I don't recall, and I said I don't recall saying a thing. I remember, and I like this woman, and I remember thinking, I bet it's never occurred to her.
No, it's like saying that you gypped somebody.
Right, and then I brought that up. How it took me a long time, but when I said gypped once, I thought, oh my God, okay, so Jude, gypped.
They Jew, you gyp.
Yeah, right. And
now I had the same thing happen to me when one of my most beloved nephews was helping me one day, and the same thing happened. It popped out of his mouth.
Jude.
And his eyes locked on my eyes, got so round. And I looked at him and I said, well, you'll never do that again, will you?
So he had
said,
just...
Nope.
As he said it, he realized for the first time
He heard it for the first time.
Yeah.
And he had done it in front of me. He would have rather died than heard me like that.
Right. And let's make clear he was not...
And that was the end of it.
He's not a Jew. Yeah, right. So, okay.
He's from a Catholic family.
So once you do know this, you do, and okay, but I'm not done because...
And everybody deserves the right to learn.
Yes. Okay, but wait. So, here's another thing Ruth Ann brought up. The word guerrilla, Guerrilla, guerrilla warfare, right?
Right.
Was a Spanish term, which I did not know, and is only a few hundred years old, and it was a term that was applied to Spanish citizens who took up arms against and battled Napoleon's army. And they were called guerrillas. And something else I didn't know, that in the world of tennis, it is used to describe a certain kind of aggressive tennis move. So, Ruth Ann's column says, when a white announcer used it, guerrilla, to describe Venus Williams playing, all hell broke loose because people heard it as gorilla.
Gorr.
Yes. And this guy was fired by ESPN. He's suing them, so it'll be interesting. It goes to trial in October.
It's like the word Niggardly.
Susan, that's exactly what I said. Boy, might as well. Yeah. niggardly, because somebody also got in trouble for using that when it has nothing to do with the N-word.
No, it means stingy, folks.
Yeah, but it isn't derived.
It's a word.
It isn't derived in any way from the.
It has nothing to do with.
And what I was saying is, given what it means, it's amazing it's not, of a Jewish derivation, because that's the, the stereotypical
that's
bullshit about
right.
Jews, right, that they're penny pinching. Okay, although I do know some. And then I know spendthrift Jews.
Gee, where do you run into those?
Well, you didn't see me look at the camera when I said it, Suze. Okay, so...
No, I don't watch you.
Yeah, right. So
it would be disorienting.
Yes, but so I gotta say, I don't know. I mean, she says the English language borrows vocabulary from just about every other language on the planet, and it is rife with terms that can be used and then heard in multiple ways. And she brings up the word ghetto. Okay, ghetto. Where do you ever hear the word ghetto? It's applied, as far as I can think of, to two peoples.
Yeah, it's black people in this country and Jews in Europe.
Right. I don't... Yeah, pretty much. That's it. It derives from Italian and was the word meant for the place where Jews in Rome were herded and told, you can only live here. And that's where the term comes from. It was called the ghetto. So,
right.
And she says, okay, so that word falls with different weight on the hearts of Jews and blacks. And are we all supposed to know this? Are we supposed to know all of these terms? Because it seems when we don't, we can cause trouble. I feel for the guy who said cotton picking. I feel for the guy who said Venus Williams' play was gorilla-like, because apparently he was saying
He was
G-U-E.
absolutely descriptively accurate.
Right. And then...
And it was a term of art.
But Susan, have you ever heard, because I learned this yesterday, the president, God, everything always comes back to him, in one of his tweets over the weekend, again referred to Chuck Todd as sleepy-eyed Chuck Todd. Well, again, Twitter goes nuts, because it turns out that sleepy-eyed is also a denigrating term for Jew.
That one I'd never heard.
Me either. And the Twitter verse pointed out that in Nazi Germany, they had like even pamphlets, how to spot a Jew, how to know if this person is a Jew. And there were all of these physical characteristics, one of which is sleepy-eyed. So the alt-right in this country thinks of sleepy-eyed as a way to dog whistle, it's a Jew. Turns out, too, that Chuck Todd is a Jew, something else I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So sleepy-eyed Chuck Todd is, for some people who know the derivation, those would be people on the alt-right, of dog whistling, saying, hey, I know it's not a Jewish name, but hey, he's a Jew.
This guy's a Jew. I'm outing him.
And the president using it, you don't know if he knows that or not. I don't know. But so her column was about where, I don't know. I think people of goodwill, as you suggested, once you realize what a word means and how it can be hurtful, you then decide, well, I'm not going to use that anymore. It's demeaning to this group of people. And we do try to do that. But sometimes when it comes to like niggardly or gorilla or no intention of offense at all, like Westbrook must be out of his cotton picking mind, that we're getting a little too quick on the trigger to take offense.
Well, right. I mean, there's a step between mistake and offense, and it's called teachable moment.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right.
And why do you spend all your time getting offended when no one meant it anyway? And isn't part of offense being
the intention,
aware of intent?
The intent, exactly, a big part of it. And
right, you take offense when you know someone's trying to be offensive.
Right.
If they're being merely uninformed and or stupid, you tell them.
Yeah. So anyway, Ruth Ann says, geez, if every awkward moment triggers an epic protest, then soon nothing will. And that's what I agree with that. She says, we'll run out of fury. The moment, you start calling everything awesome or every soldier's heroic, the word heroic
or
loses
every
all...
Me Too moment, a
total
being
assault.
Anything from rape
right.
to looking at me wrong.
That's right.
Nuance. That's. I mean, I think Me Too has already flared out because people got uncomfortable with how many people of varying degrees of culpability it was taking out.
Well, this inability to see degree and to see... I
nuance,
don't know.
Folks, nuance.
And I know that, there are increasingly people are literally afraid to talk because there are people waiting to take offense. That does not mean that you don't try not to give offense. I think well-meaning people do try.
Yeah, I mean, most people do not walk into a room and deliberately see how many people they can piss off at once, unless you're our brother.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait a minute. I think I know some.
I think you actually has been known to say the most discomfort to the most people most of the time.
Exactly. So
most people don't find pleasure and humor and all that.
But I remember once, and I think I've told this story before, way back when, I took a bit of a risk, I guess, but I decided to take it anyway when I was still in television. And I did a story about this kind of, how words can be so loaded and how words, that people of goodwill try mightily to, keep up with what is offensive and what isn't, and if there's a new word and what, it's as simple as like I sort of was startled earlier in the show when you used the word girl for Melania. You said she's a big girl, and I said, what? And it wasn't that it was because you said girl, because I remember back in the 70s just having to fight like hell not to be called a girl.
I absolutely believe that. And there are whole decades when I wouldn't have said that, but I'm tired of that. I don't give up. It's like I don't like that Jews can't use evergreens in the winter because they're somehow Christian. I mean, bull. If I want to use the word girl interchangeably, I don't mean to put her down in any way. It's just it's actually sort of a fond way of referring to her.
Okay, but I was just saying. So, girl, woman, that...
No, I know where you're coming from, and I knew where
things,
you were coming from when you gasped audibly.
That we evolve, and our language evolves. And I pointed out that, where we were really seeing it, I would have done this piece in the 80s, that where we were really seeing it is with what do you call a black person, right? And how we had seen the change from Negro, I mean, in my lifetime, from Negro to, well, maybe it was colored people to Negro.
I think it was probably colored.
Yeah, okay. Colored people, Negro, then Afro-American, I think, then African-American, then black, then people of color, which I put all of those on a circle and ended up back at color. So it started with colored and ended back with people of color, which is colored, right?
Yeah.
So I was fascinated by that. That is where the politically correct way of talking about people with darker skin became people of color, which brought us back to colored people, which was offensive. And I just think it can exhaust people often. I actually asked, my son was appalled that I did, but I didn't consider it appalling. I asked a black man who writes a very important. He is the founder of something called Very Smart Brothers, and it's big. It is national. Has a huge. I mean, he's sold the site to somebody. He's off and running. I mean, and he lives here in Pittsburgh. And people go to him all the time to know, what young black professionals in America are thinking, saying. And he's a brilliant writer. And so I asked him once, what is the right word now? I said, I'm not sure. I say black. Is that the right word? And because I still see people thinking it's African American. I mean, is there? He said, different people. He says I would say black, but there's no arbiter really of
no,
this.
and different people have different preferences, but I don't think it's wrong to ask.
I don't either. And
I mean, how are you supposed to know?
Right.
By osmosis, you have to ask.
Right.
And honestly, asking does nothing except demonstrate an interest in being non-offensive.
Right. So his name is Damon Young, by the way, and he was named recently, I forget by who, it was one of the 50 most influential black people in the country. And he's an impressive, angry. He's an angry man, and I don't blame him. Speaking of that, I'm also looking at a piece, Susan, on the front page of our local paper, which just blew me away. I'm looking at a young black man, 24 years old, Sampson Bailey Jr. He just got out of jail. He was there for 10 days. He was pulled into court for some, I don't know, probation violation. He's never done anything violent or anything. He's like practically every black man in the country. He's been pulled into the criminal justice system. The judge revoked his $1,000 bond and threw him in jail because he tested positive for marijuana. And he was on probation, and that was prohibited. And so here's a guy who's thrown in jail, $1,000 bond, which, by the way, a lot of black people can't put up. That'll keep a black...
but that's being found,
I know.
Using bond to keep poor people in jail is fundamentally unconstitutional.
Well, it hasn't
been found so over and over and over in the last several years.
No, I don't think definitively, because it's still happening constantly. Our jail here is more than half filled with people who have not been convicted of a goddamn thing. They're there because they can't make
up people for doing what is legal in 10 states in the United States.
Okay, so here's the thing. He tested positive for marijuana, Susan, because he uses a
medical
marijuana and ointment that I guess he has some other medications that he has to take, and he's very skinny. And I guess he has not a lot of appetite, and he does this medical marijuana thing. It increases his appetite. He's able to take the pills better. And anyway, doctor prescribed under a physician's care. He told the judge that he may test positive for marijuana because he had medical marijuana. And the judge said, well, show me your card. And he didn't have a card. He said he never got the card, but he's gotten blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he spent 10 days in jail for something, as you said, that nobody ever should be in jail for. And he wasn't even doing it to get high. And that he was legally using.
I mean, what part of presumption of innocence doesn't that judge get?
Jesus. And the poor kid, he said, when they put me in handcuffs, I was really confused. I didn't understand what was going on. I mean, that was the hardest 10 days of my life. And he's telling people, I've got a card. Did they bother looking up? Did they call a doctor?
Did they give him the opportunity to produce proof?
Well, he couldn't because he didn't have the damn card. But they could have called. There were a million things they could have done. There is a registry. There's a registry. That's right.
Get a,
And then somebody said, well, it's so new here in Pennsylvania. There's not a dedicated line for someone. We do not have these. We're just still working out the wrinkles here. You gotta be kidding me. Oh, my God. Okay, Suze, I got one more thing for you. A 20-year-old man is suing a publisher for damages, over a fraudulent book written by the 20-year-old man's father. The father wrote a book claiming his son went to heaven and met Jesus following a 2004 car crash. The kid, who was left paralyzed by the accident, said that his father, Kevin, totally fabricated this story of him going to heaven, meeting Jesus.
Money.
He fabricated the story and made millions. Is this the thing? Was this made into a movie?
I think
there is a movie like
there's
a movie like this. I don't know. And
no, I think this is the kid.
Well, I don't know, but anyway, so the father has made millions, and guess what? Has given not one penny to the paralyzed kid. I'd like to send the father to meet Jesus. Do you believe that?
Yeah. some people.
Isn't it unbelievable? Wow. Well, do you have any good news, Suze? I couldn't find any.
No, not any. Nothing bad has happened so far today to me.
Oh, yeah, but thank you. Thanks for the addendum there. Oh, by the way, Susan, I did know Antiques Roadshow was coming from Green Bay, and I
Did you watch it?
Yeah, well, I tried to. I called our mother when it started and said, Mom, Antiques Roadshow. She said, I know, I'm watching it. She says, look, it's just about Packer stuff, because the first thing they trotted out was a big Packer thing.
Of course.
And she was annoyed. And I said, well, okay, I just wanted you to know that it was on, and I'm glad you know. And then she said, well, I'd rather talk to you. So I didn't see it.
So you missed it.
You're right.
You missed the $400,000 Rembrandt etching.
Well, I put it on. I had it on mute with captioning. Mm-hmm. So yeah, some woman had a $400,000 Rembrandt etching. Jeez.
Right, and I thought that beautiful jewelry set was sort of neat.
Yeah,
too. And I was interested at how mild the accents
That's
were.
what I said to Mom. I said, I wanted to hear some he, so I got this at the back, and nobody sounded like that.
Well,
what's
Green
happening?
Bay might be getting it's getting more cosmopolitan,
Jeez.
and more people are moving in, and they're diluting the damn accent.
Jeez. Well, I'm here to hold it up. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, me too. The older I get, it just falls right out of my nose.
I know, it just keeps coming. So anyway,
like
Suze,
like that little droplet of snot that's always hanging off.
what are you talking about? I'm ushering you out. The show is done. It is. It's a
well, this is what happens when one gets old. We need to face it. We need to embrace it. We
What?
need to just, say, that's that.
What? I still don't understand where the drop of snot came in talking about the Green Bay accent.
Oh, because I was...
Never mind.
One
I think
talks through one's nose.
No.
And the older I get, the more it just falls out of my nose, the accent
all right.
with... It made perfect sense to me. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, you betcha.
Okay, bye now.
Bye now. See you, Suze. Thanks. Bye. That is the way we say goodbye in Green Bay. Bye now. Sans snot. And thank you all. My great thanks to Ray. I loved your missive. You're a good writer, Ray. I like your high dudgeon. And down with the Brits, Ray. That's for you. See you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.